Is this thing on? If you guys know me, if you've read my books, if you've watched any of my videos, or like I said, you sit in a room with me personally, you know that I take any opportunity that I can get to talk about the correctional profession, the environment, the way that this job affects us on the outside, right? Are you with me? You're with me on that? Well, earlier this week, a couple days ago, I had the opportunity to present to a group of jail executives. The American Jail Association put on this convention, this week-long workshop in Omaha, Nebraska at the University of Omaha, and I was able to present. And what they asked me to do was to talk about officer wellness. But I wanted to do it a little differently because I had the ear of people who could change policy, right? The people that we think are on the other side of this Grand Canyon, that don't care about us, that won't listen to us. Well, here I have this bridge, this avenue to be able to represent our concerns, right? So here's what I did. When they contacted me, when they reached out to me, they said, hey, look, we know that you could speak about officer wellness. We trust you. You do your thing. And so I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, okay, what should I do? Should I talk about the side effects? Should I give them some stats? But I said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Because staff wellness and mental health is such a hot topic nowadays, it's the new catchphrase. It's the new term. It's the new end all be all, solve every problem that we've ever had in our lives, right? Because that's such a thing, well, I wanted to let them know that this is not just something that we do just to talk about. I wanted to let them know that this program that they're getting ready to start, or this peer support team that they're getting ready to start, isn't going to be successful unless we do a couple of things. So I was racking my brain, right? I'm like, how am I going to package this idea? How am I going to present mental health and wellness to a group of administrators, right? How am I going to let them know how important this thing is when you're talking about mental health, wellness, morale of your staff, helping your staff, right? We're not just talking about jobs and filling positions, right? We're talking about saving the lives, saving the marriages, saving the relationships of correctional officers that have to carry the weight of wearing the badge. And so I came up with this title, right? And I told some coworkers at work, and they're like, don't do it, Bill. Don't say it. You can't do it that way. And I said, you know what? I got to do it this way, because this is how we're going to get the attention of the people that have the ability to help us, right? If you don't have uncomfortable conversations, if you can't let them people know what's truly going on, then how are we going to fix anything, right? I have to be uncomfortable by some of the decisions that they make, some of the things that they say, right? Some of their perceptions. And they have to be uncomfortable with some of the things that we said. So a couple of weeks ago, Katarina Spinaras, and she's the head, she's the creator, she's the founder of Desert Waters Correctional Outreach. She published my first book, When Home Becomes a Housing Unit. She wrote this fantastic article called A House Divided Cannot Stand. And what it does is it addresses the issue of recognizing the perception, the perspective of line staff, right? So if you're in charge, if you're administrator, if you're supervisor, it addresses the importance of you acknowledging the reality of your line staff. And look, it says it doesn't have to be what you think reality is, what your perception of the job is, or the state of the facility. But if you really truly care about your line staff, right, the people that are literally killing themselves for you, for this department, for their community, then you have to acknowledge their perspective, their reality, where they think your head is, your heart is, what the state of the facility is, right? And I think that's super important, because anytime you're dealing with somebody in crisis, if you refuse to acknowledge their state of mind, their perspective, then you're not going to succeed. Then that conversation is going to fail. You can't keep telling somebody who is reaching out for your help, who's saying, hey, look, I'm going through this problem, I'm going through this trauma. You can't keep saying, well, that's not really what's happening. That's not really what's going on. You're never going to fix the problem, right? Just because you're not going through it doesn't mean that they're not going through it. So I came up with this topic, right? I came up with this title. So imagine you're a jail executive, right? You're a warden, you're an administrator. You come into this comfy a classroom that's catered in with coffee, real coffee, not like shit we get in the jail, but real coffee, some snacks, and you see this PowerPoint behind you, and it says 5 reasons that your staff wellness program is going to fail. Do you like that? Because that's how I wanted them to understand how serious that this is, right? 5 reasons your staff wellness program is going to fail, and if we continue to do the same things that we've always done, if we operate business as usual, well, then nothing's going to change. And so I wanted them to know how important this was from a line staff's perspective that we actually change, and from a line staffer's perspective on where I feel their intentions lie. And I want to talk to you a little bit about it. And I'm not going to go through in depth all of this stuff because this is a long video and you guys got other shit to do, right? But I want to talk to you a little bit about the things that I talk to them about, and then the things that we can do as line staff, that we have to do as line staff to help this out, right? Because we can't just sit and wait for administration to operate, to do things, to implement things. We have to do things. So the only way this thing works, right? The only way that this thing will work is if the top implement policies, procedures, you plan staff appreciation days, and they do all the things on their end that they could do, but then us as staff, we have to be receptive to that, and I'm going to talk about that here in a second. So I told them, look, the number one reason that your staff wellness program is going to fail is because line staff doesn't trust you. So I liken this to like a cheating spouse, right? I told them that they're the cheating spouse, that they're the one who ran out on the marriage, and now we're stupid enough to take them back. And here's the whole deal, guys. If you're going to stay in this relationship, in this profession, then you got some work to do too. Then whatever happens from this point forward, you have some responsibility about. I don't know. Basically, I'm saying that you can't just lay there and let shit happen. So I told them that because they cheated, that it's going to take a long time for them to regain our trust. And that's going to take a lot of free hot dogs. That's going to take staff appreciation days. That's going to take them showing us repeatedly over and over and over again that they appreciate us. And then after time, we may start to believe them. But I told them it's going to take a long time. And I told them don't expect any thanks or accolades for those things that they do. They're just going to have to do them. So number 2, the second thing that I told them is that their staff wellness program is going to fail because they always choose the same people, right? Every time they form a committee, every time they form a think tank, they're always using the same people. And it's the go-getters in the facility, and that's fine because they're out doing things. But when you talk about staff wellness, you have to use people that really care, that live and breathe, that are passionate about making sure officers are okay. You can't just pick somebody who's trying to promote or who wants to put another feather in their cap. You have to use the right people. And so I listen, after all of these things, I did give them some suggestions, some things that they can do, ideas from a frontline perspective that would make this thing a little bit easier. And then the third thing I mentioned, number 3, is that there will be no follow-through on this, right? Like a lot of other things that we propose, that we start to do, that we plan to do, things come up, right? Because we're a 24/7 operation where real emergencies can happen. We got fires, we got fights, we got deaths, we got suicides, we got COVID-19 still, the 4th or 5th or 6th, 10th wave, whatever it is. And so there's always something that comes up, right? But I said, hey, look, if there's a mandatory meeting that you have, right, on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, and you make time for that, you carve out a little bit of time for that, you have to do the same thing for staff wellness. If you don't make this a priority, right, if you're not using the right people who live and breathe and are going to fight tooth and nail for their coworkers, then this thing ain't going to be a priority. It's not going to work because something will always come up. And then the 4th reason that I gave them is that they just don't really care. Now, this could be for a couple of reasons, and I'm not going to dive into this because this was a conversation that I was able to have with them, right? But I'm going to share with you what I suggested, right? Number 1 is that they are not me, meaning that they promoted. They're no longer in the shit, right? Carrying the keys, and so their perspective, the things that are important to them, their concerns are different. And that's not wrong. They have concerns and stresses and things that they have to do, but they're now removed from the line staff, right? And so if you're talking staff wellness, you're talking about making sure line staff are okay, you need to have somebody who's in touch with this. Number 2 is that they were never me, right? Some of us learn to do this profession in a classroom, and some of us learn to do this profession in a day room, right? And so what the experts don't understand is that we're a bunch of cynical assholes, really. Like, if you never carried the keys, if you've never had to fight a naked guy in a flooded cell covered in his own feces, then we really don't give a shit what you think. Not only that, but when it comes to knowing what your people need, if you've never been in that position, you're going to kind of have a skewed sense of what actually people need. And that's going to be really difficult if you were never in that position. I'm not saying it's impossible, right? There's a lot of people out there that really care, that really want to help. But the way to do that is to have that bridge, right? Is to talk to your actual line staff and see what they need. Right, so I told them, you were never me, you're not me, or they just really don't understand or care about this mental health thing. And I told them that's okay unless you're the head of the wellness program. Because if you are and you don't really understand it, or you don't really care, or you're not really experiencing the side effects of what we're talking about, then it's going to be hard for you to reach out, to help, to empathize, to do all of the things that your staff need for you to do to get this thing done. And so one of the people there, it was so awesome. What they said was they're putting together a peer support team at their facility. But the person that's in charge of putting that team together is not selecting the team, because she said she's so far removed from the line staff, she's so far removed from the actual day-to-day operations of the facility, that she couldn't make a good choice, that she wouldn't be able to pick the appropriate people. So she's letting other line staffers pick the line staffers that are going to head up that committee. And I think that's awesome. You know, think about it this way. Think about your peers and think about the people that you work with every day. Who would you want in the office fighting for you, coming up with who can best represent your needs? And I think that was an awesome solution. And very big of somebody in a position of power to say, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, so I'm going to let somebody else carry the torch. And last but not least, right, number 5, and for me, maybe the number 1 reason that your staff wellness program or anything they try to implement for officers is going to fail is because the correctional culture itself. And that's where we come into play, you and me. And that's why it's going to fail, because no matter what, right, we're at a point right now where officers are struggling, where they're angry, where they're tired. We have people that are 15, 20-year vets that are making good money, that are really close to a pension, that have full benefits, right? And they want to leave. And they want to leave, and they're upset because for years and years and years they've been whooped. They've been underappreciated. They've been working in these understaffed conditions, and so they're angry, so they're cynical. And part of the reason that we're cynical is because you trained us to be cynical. That's what they taught us to do. But here's the thing. At some point, we're going to have to swallow a little bit of our pride. We're going to have to say, look, we're stupid enough to stay in this profession. We're not going to quit. We're not going to walk away. We're not going to leave this abusive relationship. So at what point do we have to take responsibility and we say, hey, you know what? We need to start helping up morale, okay? The floor in the break room isn't going to build morale, right? The free hot dogs that they give you isn't going to build morale. And I'm a firm believer that there's nothing, and let's be honest with ourselves here, there's nothing that your administration can do for you right now, today, that would make you 100% happy. It's just not going to happen. They could give you $100, buy you lunch, and you would still be pissed off because they used the wrong mayonnaise or something stupid like that. So at some point, you have to take responsibility for what's happening. You have to take responsibility for the tone, for the morale of your fellow staff, right? Instead of being part of the problem, instead of sitting there bitching the whole time about administration ain't doing this, the director's not doing this, or they don't care about us, why don't you stop? Why don't you start? Why don't you lead the charge? Why don't you try to implement some changes? Well, I ain't got no power to do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Instead of being negative, instead of telling war stories and how this is the worst you've ever seen, why don't you be a cheerleader? Why don't you get off your ass and start doing rounds and talking to other officers and give them some help, right? Why don't you try to nurture those young people that are only lasting 4 or 5 or 6 months because we're too big of an asshole to even talk to them? Why don't we swallow our pride, walk into administration, walk into the office, email the secretary and sit down and say, can I have a conversation with you? I have some ideas that I think would help. If you're going to start a peer support team, I want to be a part of that, right? And then when those things start coming down the pipe, right? When the free hot dogs start coming, when the staff appreciation days start coming, when you get an award for 15 years and you've been there 17, just take the award. Just be thankful that they're doing something and understand that the changes in the culture are going to take a long time. They can't change this shit overnight, right? And one of the reasons they can't change it overnight is because we're so fucking angry. So then at the end of it, I tell you, there was a little questions and answers, and a lady asked me a great question. And so this is what I'll pass on to you, and you can pass on to somebody else if you want. She said, if you had the power, right, if you could do whatever you wanted, the director's going to do whatever you wanted to help bring staffing in, what would you do? Because I believe, and she believes, that if people can go home on time when they want to go home, a lot of this goes away, right? People quit being angry, sick leave abuse stops happening, FMLA, all of those things, right? People start making better decisions because they only have to work their shift. What would I do? I said, I don't really have any answers, and neither do you, but here's the very first thing that I would do. I would get a committee. I would get a team together of line staff. I wouldn't use upper management, right? They could spearhead it, but I would use line staff. And I would put together a marketing campaign, hire a headhunter, get a marketing firm, do whatever you got to do, but put out TV commercials, radio spots, get a social media presence, right? Actively go after people in community college classes, in university classes, right? Military people that are coming home. Target those people. Put out a marketing campaign and have a presence that say, hey, by the way, corrections is a recession-proof position where you can make a decent living at and not have to worry about getting fired. So that's the number one thing that I would do. I would go out, I would hit it hard. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and there are some agencies that are doing this, and they're doing pretty good with it. So that's the first thing that I would do, and that could be your suggestion. Put some numbers together, put some ideas together, go to your director and say, hey, I have an idea. We need a social media presence. We need a marketing campaign. We need commercials on the radio. We need commercials on TV to get people to know about this job. And here's the other thing that you can do as an officer. Quit complaining to your friends about how shitty the job is and start recommending that they come work for us. Because if we can get more people in the door, right, word of mouth, that we can go home on time. And guys, really, this is the only thing that's going to work. We have to have management on board, working their angles, changing their policies, hiring people, doing all those things. And then we have to have staff who are fostering an environment, a welcoming environment, a psychologically safe environment where officers want to work together, where officers want to work there. And we have to have somebody who's going to be willing to go up to management and say, hey, this is what we need. This is what we really want. This is where your staff's heads and hearts are. And be honest with them, be candid with them, right? Somebody who's not afraid of the repercussions that aren't going to come, because I think management truly cares. It's just how do you fix this problem, right? It's a global problem, right? And everybody's needs are different. So no matter what you do, nobody's going to be happy. But you have to continue to do that. So officers, you have to help. Administrators, you have to help. You have to work together. So build those connections. In the comments below, if you're still hanging out with me, and I'm sorry about this little rant, but if you're still hanging out with me, let me know. Can you be part of that bridge? Are you the person in your facility that can go to management and talk about them? And have you done that before? And what are some suggestions that you have for us? Put it in the comment section for us to maybe take to our management, and I'll drop some in there below too. And what do you think? And I gave you my 5 reasons. What are some of the reasons that you think that a staff wellness program is going to fail? Because we can have all the resources out there available for us, but if you're not going to take the help, then what's the point of even having the help? If you like this video, if you found value in this video, straight punch that little like icon. Like, comment, and share this content with anyone and everyone that you think may be interested. Subscribe and click that little bell so you're notified every time I release another video. And if you're looking for more correctional content, head on over to my Facebook page. I'll post the link in the description below so you know where to go. Guys, I want you to go to Amazon, check out my 2 books, The Nothing That Never Happened and When Home Becomes a Housing Unit. And if you've already bought the books and you've read the books, drop in the comment section below. Give this video a like. Drop in the comment below. Let me know what your favorite story was. Let me know what your favorite chapter was. Or you know what? And honestly, go ahead and put a number 3 in there if you'd buy a 3rd book. If I came out with number 3, go ahead, just put the number 3 in there. All right, I've been asking y'all for a couple of weeks if you would tune into a live, if I was to do a live show, and it's coming, guys. It's coming. The responses was great. I used to do one on Facebook, the Saturday Night Synopsis. I am going to bring a live show back more details for that will be coming up soon, and I'll let you know in plenty of time so you can rearrange all your schedules and drop the kids off the babysitters or do whatever you got to do to participate in the party, because it's coming back. Live shows are coming back. All right, guys, that's all I got. Until next time, be smart, stay safe, stay sane, and we'll talk soon.